How's it going, y'all? Today, we're going to be taking a look at Slender, the 8 Pages map port. This is a mod available for download on mod.io for BONELAB, and it was posted by Hombres Guapos. Now, right off the bat, I'm noticing a little bit of frame hitching, and this is a known problem. This map is a little bit older. This was posted to mod.io on Christmas Day of 2024, which means that this map is about a year and a half old. So there aren't too many active updates happening for it. But this lag is a known issue. Some folks have talked about it in the discussion posts on the listing for this map. Now, this doesn't have any entities in it, or so the map maker claims, and it's mainly more of an exploration map, which is perfect for us. Now, right off the bat, me being me, first off, I really like this truck. No plate. I want to take a look and see what's behind it. That's quite menacing. It looks like it just goes right up against that geometry. Now, I have played Slender the 8 Pages only a handful of times. I played the PC versions a couple times, but I mainly had my experience with it playing the iOS version of it back when it was somewhat of a new game. How far back does this go? Okay, right up against that. Okay. So what I understand is this port has the 8 pages, just doesn't have any entities, and the creator, or rather the one who ported it over, said that he had to replace a number of the props in the map, but that everything else was straight from the original game. Slenderman, I believe, was probably one of the first cryptid, SCP, whatever you want to call him, one of the first beings of his kind that I really had a reaction to. I believe the first one had to be the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. Oh my goodness, that one tree illuminated almost looked like Slenderman, but really tall and stretching out his big arms. I'll turn this up so I can make sure I'm hearing the ambiance. There we are. If there is any. I think, I keep getting this weird lighting glitch at the bottom of my view. Might just be the flashlight hitting the grass. And the atmosphere is so thick. My flashlight doesn't even penetrate. But as I was saying, the Weeping Angels were probably the first cryptid, so to say, that I had a visceral reaction to. Them and comparably the Silence from Doctor Who. I was a very big Doctor Who fan. For all intents and purposes, I was quite the Whovian in middle school. David Tennant was my favorite. Matt Smith was the last one I watched. I didn't care much for Peter Capaldi, and the other actors who have played the Doctor since then just have never interested me. And I think, looking retrospectively at my experiences with the show, I realized one of the reasons I loved it so much was because it felt like every episode there was some new twist. It was like a modern Twilight Zone, which I am a very openly big fan of. I mentioned in my last video, or at least the video I produced prior to this one, that I'm currently writing a new short film, and it is in spirit a Twilight Zone fan episode. If I can actually ever get that off the ground, then you'll hear me talking about where you can find it online to watch. But the idea of Slenderman was always so interesting to me, and I remember it reappeared in my personal zeitgeist around the time of the Slenderman murder. Which, if you're not familiar with that was a case that was opened back in 2018, I believe, of a girl who had lured, I believe it was a girl and a friend of hers, a friend or two of hers, who had lured another friend of theirs out into the forest and took her life, believing that Slenderman wanted them to. Later on, I believe, and it was years after that had happened that I started seeing they had not necessarily that they had closed the case, but that they had started talking about it more publicly again. I believe, oh my goodness, massive hulking thing coming out of the darkness. Which I believe one of the pages should be around here. I believe she was tried with insanity. But I remember that case just made it brought Slenderman back, and it made him all the more scary because it was no longer just some cryptid from some Photoshop pictures or a video game. It had become something that had genuinely impacted someone's life, or in that case, taken it. Weeping Angels never did that to my knowledge. And I don't think we're actually able to take it. But we can look at it. Is that a thumbnail? That might be a thumbnail. I don't know. We'll find out later. Slenderman is very fascinating to me, though. I remember some of the first times I ever heard about him, I believe, was when some of the earlier Photoshop photos of him, I believe, in a city in Mexico, started hitting the internet and really gaining waves. I think that was probably around the time that I started to really recognize that there are these things called cryptids, these creatures. It got me really attracted to some SCPs and got me really into, well, a branch of what it is I do now, which is exploration of the unknown. I was very fascinated by UFOs, alien sightings, and the paranormal, and I read probably just about every paranormal book in my school library in elementary school, and I did not like reading. I was not a fan of reading at all, but books about the paranormal I just couldn't put down. I remember from an early age, I was always fascinated by whatever I could get my hands on that had to do with ghosts. There was a book in my school library just about poltergeists, and it talked about different kinds who were specters, things that just floated around, ghosts that were just like a broken record. They just kept repeating the same moment in time over and over. Intelligent ones, ones that were sensitive, that would use fire, and they would cause fires and all these things. And I found it so interesting, and I started reading these short stories, these short horror stories from this big collection in my library, and thinking about, oh, this is very reminiscent of this specific poltergeist that I learned about in this book. And for me, it was more wonder and mysticism. It was never really a reality for me. The older I've gotten, I still can't say for sure whether or not it's legitimate, but I know that things happen. I know that there are things we can't explain, and I've alluded it to the past. I grew up religious, and sometimes some religious folks believe that you can't be religious and believe in stuff like that. Others say you can't be religious and not believe in stuff like that. I still am looking for that line, but at the end of the day, I know things happen that I can't explain. And poltergeists, ghosts, very likely a part of that. I almost feel like I'm being cornered by these trees. I can tell I'm near the boundary again, though, because of the strange geometry on the horizon. But I think I'm starting to head back towards the truck. I think that... Oh my goodness. That was my body again. I think that little glisten over there, that's probably my truck headlights. I always thought it was interesting that they introduced the silence in Doctor Who, presumably not long after the character known as Slenderman really started to get popular, because Well, at a noticeable glance, the silence looked very similar to Slenderman. When I first saw that episode of Doctor Who, I thought, "Wow, they put Slenderman in Doctor Who." I wonder if this lag is going to pick up on the camera or on the video, because sometimes it almost looks like ghastly faces being flashed into my vision as I'm walking around. Wow, leaf physics? I didn't know that was possible in the Marrow engine. That's amazing. I'm learning so many things about this engine. That's really cool. More on this map. I was reading the description for it on mod.io, and it appears that the map maker, if he hasn't completely abandoned this, or it may be map makers plural, seeing as it's more than just one hombre, but that it's actually dos hombres, or at the very least, more than one hombre. They want to try and actually put some Slenderman avatars in the map. Although I don't know that it would have as much of a spooky effect as the Dark Figures and Ricky Picky maps do, seeing as the Dark Figures, albeit just mannequins, are menacing in just their existence, where Slenderman is scary because he's a pursuer. He's a predator. He's actively hunting. So that is the truck. So that means we've gone in a circle, which is a good thing, because that means we can now work forward from here. Looks like we're to the right of the truck. Yeah, so I know there's a building. There are maybe at least a couple buildings in the original map. And I don't remember the original map too well, so I'm actually just going to go straight here. Goodness. I recently had a neighbor move into the unit up above me. And since moving to where I live now, I have never had a neighbor above me. So I'm not used to hearing noises in my ceiling. So it's the first time I've ever experienced this, and it's very strange. Even when I was living in Austria and Germany, when I had upstairs neighbors, they were never very loud at all. But it's like this guy's walking around in tap shoes and is always dropping stuff. It's very strange. It's like he's building something up there. I like to think about it sometimes, though. I'm a big fan of some of Tom Hanks's early work, and if you know the movie The Burbs, that movie is very much the idea of what are my neighbors doing. Thinking to that era of Tom Hanks movies, I like the movie The Money Pit. At times, that movie almost feels somewhat liminal. It's a young new married couple who buys a big abandoned house, and they try and clean it up and fix it up and make it their dream home. And at times, it's just Tom Hanks in this big empty house, and there's this one scene where he has fallen through the floor, and he's wrapped up in this Persian rug that's keeping him friction locked in the hole. And so he's stuck there forever, and he's stuck there overnight until his wife comes with a car and helps him out. And that imagery of just being stuck in a claustrophobic space overnight in a massive unfinished house has always been somewhat of a haunting, but it's like a car crash. You can't take your eyes off of it. And that's how I've really felt about that movie. Which makes me realize I need to watch it again soon. I probably haven't seen it since I was 13, 14. Ooh. So I think I need to just start going in. I'm gonna stay away from the perimeter and just start going inwards. I'm just gonna go straight and see what I find. Which maybe running into the dark is probably not a safe maneuver. I do like the forest at night because it reminds me that there's light in the universe. Because if I turn my flashlight off, it's obvious that the sky has more light than the trees. I've always loved that. was one of my favorite things about going camping when I was in Boy Scouts, was looking up at the stars when everyone turned their lanterns off. Big open area here. I think we're at another map boundary here. Just seems it. Is the map really this small? That can't be. There's got to be more. Because if I run this way, then we already are running into, there it is, the hill that goes up into the geometry. So I need to, I don't remember it being this small. But then again, I wasn't playing on BONELAB. So that's an intersection there. So I need to break form. I can't even see my truck's lights from here anyway. The atmosphere is so thick I can't see anything. I found another boundary. And there are my truck lights. So now Operation Find the Building is in effect. I mean, it's a building. How hard could it be? That's a nice boulder. I like that boulder. Looks more like a massive hornet's nest. Wait, hold on. I don't remember this. Then again, oh, and there's another page. So, obviously, pages are at landmarks in the map. They're not just randomly scattered. There are headlights right there. Now, where's the building? It's funny when I walk, it almost looks like the lights are moving away from us, like someone has actually gotten into my truck, turned the key, and is silently leaving us here out to be alone in what could be an endless night. Oh, and here's a silo, which I know there's bound to be a page on this one. There certainly is. This page was probably one of the more haunting ones for me. This one and the no eyes one. I think the no eyes one is in the building. But in order to find out, we have to find the building. See, now I know. Where is the building? Knowing the reputation, I don't know if there's actual canon behind it, but knowing the reputation of cryptids in the US, I know Slenderman, I think takes a lot of that happens in Mexico, but I wouldn't put it past to find out that Slenderman's actually in New Jersey or Washington, seeing the reputation that those states tend to have with cryptids. See, there's like some building or compound out here. I almost feel like I need to whip out a second flashlight. Just don't remember where. Open field, okay. Go on the boundaries of the open field. Here it is. Ooh. Maybe that's our thumbnail. It would have to be kind of angled, though. YouTube likes the angles. See, this reminds me of like a camp shower, which I'm sure what this is supposed to be. Reminds me of going to some base camps, and they would just have these big shower rooms. I almost feel it was a violation of my privacy not to have my own room to shower in. What I'm wondering from these pages, because I'm not familiar with the lore as well anymore. Who are making these pages? Because sometimes they feel like they're coming from the perspective of Slenderman, and other times they feel like they're coming from people who are trying to warn us about what's in these woods. That's something I have yet to figure out. Ooh. And that goes outside that way. I do like this building though. It has a really nice ambiance. And nothing in here. This artifact on the ceiling is quite strange. This goes outside. And this is the back of the building. I do really like the look of this, though. It's very haunting. So let's see, how many have we found? Found the tank, we found the rock, we found this one, we found the silo. That's 4. At least if I'm counting right. Again, not that we're looking, but maybe we are. I just can't remember what other landmarks there are in this map. Oh, here's one. Is this a hangar? Oh, it sure is. Oh my goodness. I can only imagine what this is like being, what it's like being in this thing on the game. It almost looks like a giant concrete sewage pipe that's just been scaled up. But there's bound to be a page. Is it on the other side? Did we totally just blindside it? It can't just be here and then there not be a page, right? Did we miss it on the inside? Oh, we totally did, because it blends in. Always watches, no eyes. Yep. I guess we kind of are looking for pages now. That's number 5, I believe. 3 more to go. I swear I remember one being on a tree. I believe it was one of the big ones, but I can't imagine it's just a random tree. It would have to be something that sticks out. Like a tree standing alone. Could it be this one? No. But this open space doesn't fill me with tons of confidence. Let's see. It is rather fascinating how the internet can take such a simple concept and then turn it into something that impacts lives. Slenderman is, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, chances are I'm probably not wrong in assuming at least one of my viewers is very interested in cryptids and such. So you'd have to tell me in the comments, and if you can give me the backstory of Slenderman in the comments, please do. Heck, I'd even pin your comment. But as far as I know, it started off as a Photoshop project. And it was more of an idea than it was anything else. And then it got turned into a game by someone who found a fancy to the story. And then, of course, the internet goes from there, and you have entire forums that write just about Slenderman and possible real-life sightings, which I also find fascinating because we tend to create things in our minds. We make things real, and I think that's interesting because in a way we almost manifest our own fears, which the brain is really good at, especially with the ability to make faces out of things that don't have a face. And so we create our own monsters. And even when we know something verifiably doesn't exist, that doesn't stop people from convincing themselves they've experienced something. This old truck. Follows. That's number 6. Little container buildings like this I also love. My goodness, my upstairs neighbor just like dropped a mop or something upstairs. It scared the daylights out of me. And the static noise of Slenderman. So iconic and so haunting. It's something that is a common trope in horror that I absolutely love because static is the promise that you are receiving. But when you're not receiving anything through it, it's a reminder that you are receiving and there is verifiably nothing on the other side until you hear a crackle. And you hear a voice that you don't recognize. I would love to write a short film, a horror short about a radio or or TV static or something. I have never ever tried to do horror. Which I find funny because horror is a very easy genre to get started in. It's a very easy one because people can forgive bad horror because then it becomes comedy. Think about Evil Dead. Evil Dead was a student project that Sam Raimi did with Bruce Campbell. I believe were they at UCLA? They were students. It was a student film. I believe Sam Raimi was 19 when they started writing that. And it had a shoestring budget. And then they leaned into the comedy despite the fact that Sam Raimi was really a horror director at first. And you can see that he still got back in touch with his roots. For example, in Spider-Man, I believe it was Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, and the operating room scene in the hospital is proof that those are his roots. But even though I've written a number of short films, I have never even once tried to do a horror film. I'm much more interested in time period pieces, science fiction, drama. I've never really been into horror, but I'm currently trying to crack my way into noir. Maybe after that I'll try my hand at some horror. It would be really fun because the great thing about horror is it's one of the easiest genres to do on a low budget. You only ever need one person. Just the idea of being alone is scary. Whereas with a drama, it's very hard to do that with one person. Another open field. What am I going to find here? Am I going to reach another landmark? Let me follow this road here. I have to kind of scan back and forth. Something else I find very fascinating. I had some friends over the other night because we were watching. What did we watch? We watched a movie. We had watched Arrival. I'm a linguist, and so I love Arrival because it talks about language. It's all about language and how it impacts the brain. And afterwards, we were all sitting in my office. Oh, we're back here. We were all sitting in my office, and we were talking about something, and we got on the topic of air raid sirens, and I talked about how I have this strange haunting fascination with them, with any type of public announcement sirens. There's a specific type of siren, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like, I think it's a Chrysler siren, and it is so incredibly haunting. But on the contrary, they can be quite beautiful. I remember there was a video about how this one guy in his town had all the sirens in his town go off, and they all started to harmonize.
Seriously, this is crazy.
Which I thought was a great example of the hauntingly beautiful. Which I feel like since I stopped running, it gets really quiet, and then I'm tense. Just wondering, what else is there? What am I missing? There has to be something I haven't seen yet. Bunch of trees. Have I missed a page among the trees? And then there are these massive trees that just seem to come out of nowhere, yet they have no significance. See, now that's an open... This looks like it could be an open field. And I'm back here. But which direction of back here am I? Where is the truck? Because I need to know if I'm missing a major landmark. There's the truck. So with the tanks over there, it seems I could sneak up behind the truck here. Another open area. I think one of the scarier things when it comes to being alone is if you're in a situation where you don't want to be found, you tend to want to stay quiet. But when you do that and it's too quiet, we were talking about static and how it's the presence of sound without any signal at all. I think about the ringing in your ears, the sound that your head makes naturally, the pulsing and the pushing of blood through your blood vessels, the sounds of your organs working, your esophagus doing its esophagus thing. I think Veritasium, amongst others, have done videos in the world's quietest rooms, and they've talked about how all you can hear is your body. And when you're trying to stay hidden, and I remember this sensation from when I was little, playing hide and seek or manhunt, I tried to be very quiet. I'd start to freak myself out because of the sounds my body made. I'd hear the ringing in my ears, and it was deafening. Louder than anything I'd ever heard was the silence around me. I was having a conversation with a close friend of mine today, and we were talking about how excited we are for Halloween. And at the time of filming, we're still many months away from that. But that we wanted to get together soon and talk about what it is we wanted to do. Because I'm of the opinion Halloween should last at least the entire month of October. We get cut short because of all the other holidays that want our attention. And my friend and I have also resigned to call ourselves Halloweeners or Halloweenies. Now that looks like a tree that's going to have a page on it. And there it is. That is quite the tree. Don't look or it takes you. I think he takes me even if I don't look. If I remember my game well enough, he takes me even when I don't look. Okay, we're 7 pages in. Let's just find the last page. Okay, so there must be one landmark that we have not seen yet. I'm going to try and go a little bit more inwards. Does this widen? No. And we're back here again. So what if I go this way? What's on this? What's this way? So we're back where we started. This time I'm going to try and stay... I'm going to just try and stay on this road this time, because I've been all around that side. Which, if I remember right, there should be the silo on this road. Yep, there's the silo. So I'm starting to figure out where I am a little bit. I mean, obviously I'm on the right side of the map. I can see the tree line. So at least I know I'm as far to the side as I can be for staying on the road. So I guess this is the secret, is to just stay on the road. That's the whole tactic for playing the game. Whoa. I think we found our last landmark. I forgot about these walls. Which, thinking about the map, everything else on the map, for the most part, made sense. This doesn't make any sense. Unless this is like a place... Oh my goodness. Unless this is a place where you would stage fertilizer. There's the last page. These walls don't make much sense to me. I think it's quite interesting. But with that being said, I guess we found all 8 pages. So I think it's time to close. I have really enjoyed this map. Again, it's a little too dark for me, and there's not as much going on, but it's a classic map. And for some folks, this map holds a lot of nostalgic memories. For me, it's more of a reminder of a time rather than memories directly tied to the game, but nonetheless, it still had a reaction. It still got a reaction out of me. And I got to reflect on some things I haven't thought about in a while, which, when a map does that, I consider it a really good map. And we've had a really good streak of maps that have done that recently. And if you know of more maps that are similar to this, then let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to take a look. If you'd like to play this map, I'll leave a link for that down in the description. If you'd like to support me, I have links for that as well down in the description. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. And if you decide you don't want to subscribe, at least leave a like on the video. It tells YouTube that people would like this, and that I might be able to find folks that do want to stick around for a subscribe. I've really enjoyed making these videos, and I want to keep making them. So please do let me know how I'm doing down in the comments below, and I'll do what I can to make these even better for you. But with that being said, until the next video, y'all take care.